the sweet one. It is sweet.
Really within the last 5 years, the market has grown tremendously, both in customers and in vendors, and that's a large part to do with the Hmong vendors that have come to the market. About 5 years ago, we had our kind of first Hmong vendor come, and since then it's grown to, I think, about 10 different vendors throughout the year. And really without that, we would not really have this farmers market that you see today. We would have much less produce, and so it's really such a benefit, and we're very lucky that a lot of the Hmong community has come from other parts of the country to settle in eastern Oklahoma and western Arkansas.
Thank you.
As a group, the Hmong farmers are off the charts in terms of growing. They can grow things in different seasons that we can't grow. For example, there's one vendor that brings lettuce in the middle of July that isn't bitter. She's developed the shade cloth system to be able to do it. They're great at succession growing in terms of having crops continuously planting. The farms we've seen, they're using marginal soil. They generally don't have the best soil. And as a grower, seeing that, it's extremely difficult not having, it's like having your hands tied behind your back in terms of growing, in terms of using soil that is marginal.
I have some customer, they come visit and they come bought tomato from our farm. And they say, they surprised for the shade. They're wondering, how we got the idea get the shade? Cause one we live in Boston, Massachusetts, and they had the shade for the tobacco. They have the shade for the tobacco, and I told my husband, say, wow, maybe Oklahoma have to need the shade like a tobacco.
The story of the Hmong started with, in terms of how they came to the United States, started with the Vietnam War, when they aligned themselves with the U.S. government. After the U.S. pulled out of Southeast Asia, they were persecuted by the governments in Southeast Asia, and the U.S. actually was able to bring a lot of the Hmong refugees to the U.S. Some still are in Thailand in refugee camps, but a large number were able to immigrate to the U.S. After the war. And they generally settled in a couple locations in the United States. Minneapolis, St. Paul is a huge one, California is another one, and now just recently here in eastern Oklahoma.
In my country, we farm a lot, but in American country, it's nice country, more freedom, and when you garden, it's more easy, cause I got everything. My country, when you go like here to Minnesota, you have to go sign the paper, everything, then you can go. In my country, you have to sign the paper first. Sometimes, usually the mayor of the city doesn't want you to go, so you can go. So if you not follow the rule, then you go, you got trouble, nobody know about you.
I would say the biggest misconception people have is that they're not growing the produce. We get that a lot, is because a lot of the produce might look the same, very similar varieties, and that is totally false, 100% false. We have visited a lot of the Hmong farmers here, their farms, seen their operation. They're all growing their produce. Just so happens that they use maybe similar seed varieties that they have, that they brought with them from Laos, or just what they're familiar with, but they are all growing their produce 100%. I have no doubt in my mind. The best way for customers really to connect with the Hmong, I know sometimes there's a language barrier, but is just to try to start that relationship, try to ask people's name, where are they farming, just really try to start to get to know their story, and you'll find that Hmong as a community are extremely open. extremely kind, very generous. We've been welcomed into people's homes all the time for meals. Just always yes. I mean, just extremely friendly people. And so it just get past that little bit of language barrier and try to form that relationship, and you'll find you'll be rewarded tenfold. I would say 5 years ago or so, when the Hmong first farmers started to come to this market, there was definitely a lot of misperceptions from the customers, and now over time, I feel like that has really decreased from it. We get way fewer questions than we did just a couple years ago about the Hmong, and so I really feel like customers are understanding that they're part of the community. They grow great food, high quality, and they're being supported, and hopefully that trend will continue. Thank you.
You're welcome.